Hello. Nice to see you on this New Year's Eve evening. Well, anyways, it's probably not New Year's Eve for you because odds are it took me quite a while to edit this. As it is New Year's Eve evening, I've been doing a little reflecting about my own personal behaviors, and given that it's the time of New Year's resolutions, well, this came to mind. A lot of the people that are quite close to me in my life have told me that I may have a few too many bikes. And I thought I'd make this video where I will go over my entire fleet of bikes in order to get a bit of perspective and see what they might see. Now, they think it's a problem, which it definitely is not. So, I think this will help me get acquainted, as well as you acquainted, with some two-wheeled vehicles that you have and haven't seen on this channel before. I look like I belong in the lighthouse.
It is bad luck to give us.
Anyways, we're going to go over some two-wheel vehicles today, a little bit different from the usual episodes, but I think you might enjoy it. So this here is my not always fixed gear Norco Nomad. This is one of the most influential bikes in the fleet. That's what really got me into cycling. The bike is a Norco Nomad from roughly 1986 to 1989. I am quite sure it's in that range because it is a lugged frame. I got this bike just over a year ago now, I believe. This bike really changed a lot about cycling for me. It really got me into it, and it also was there for one of the biggest cycling moments I've ever had. As you can see, it is a little worse for wear. It is a real steel bike. It is vintage, and I do ride it, which means it does spend some time outside. It does spend some time in the weather. For a while, it was a flat bar 10-speed, pretty enjoyable. And then it went to the ghetto bullhorns, which you can see in quite a few videos. Anyways, let's go over some of the specs on this bike. These flat bars and these ergon grips I got from a gentleman who was selling a lot of bike parts before he moved back to Europe. The frame, headset, bottom bracket, all of those are original, as well as the fork and seat post. Front wheel is the original Norco wheel, as well as the original Norco tire. For something that old, it actually rides surprisingly well. I've never had any issues with it. It is showing some signs of dry rot, so it may eventually be retired if I end up replacing it with a 700C in the front. This is actually a 27-inch front wheel. I've had no issue with it. So, aside from finding tire sizes, that is a little bit more difficult, especially if you want something a bit more off-road focused. It just really isn't there in that market. Anyways, if we head down to the cranks, these are some Shimano cranks that I picked up from our lovely bike sauce. This chainring, also from the same fellow heading over to Europe. It is a Sagino 50 tooth. The chain here is actually a Schwinn single-speed fixed gear chain. It is it's not looking the cleanest. Unfortunately, I'm not known for keeping my bike super clean, and therefore, although this chain is quite new, it is dirty. Heading down to the back, we have a McDonald's coffee cup. That is there because I stuck it in there one day, and it's just been sitting there, and I think it's kind of funny, so I've left it there. Up to the saddle, this is a Sella Italia Trans Am, picked up from the same gentleman heading to Europe. Like, these Europeans, they find the good stuff. Down on the bottom of it, which is hard to see now because it's a little bit muddied up, is a Value Village sticker that reads $11.99. Yeah, Value Village is where you find the best finds. Heading back to the rear wheel here, this is a flip-flop hub. On one side it has a single speed 18 tooth, and on the other side it has a fixed 18 tooth. Altogether, the gear ratio is... And so, yeah, this wheel, quite good, although it is track hub spacing, so there are some spacers in there to make up for the gap. This does have diagonal dropouts, so I was able to do the proper chain tensioning, which was a true lifesaver, because if you've seen some other videos, the chain has not been properly tensioned. Anyways, I really enjoyed turning this bike fixed gear. For the longest time, only 3 of the 10 speeds worked, and I sort of found like the happy medium and stuck with that. So this is quite close to what that ratio was, anyways, but turning the bike fixed gear has really spiced it up and helped separate it from my race bike, which, you know, gives me a better appreciation for it. So I've really been enjoying that. Aside from that, what else is there to talk about? These pedals from Bike Sauce are Christoph vintage pedals. They do have original cages and leather straps, which I think is quite cool. The only downside about these pedals is they do not have the little tab at the back of them that you use with your foot to strike them and slide your foot in. So getting in with these, especially fixed, is quite difficult because it's continuously rotating and you really got to time it right in order to get both feet in. Quite difficult. So let's move on to the next one. All right, this here is Truck Bike, probably the most recent addition to the fleet. I just finished building it up less than a month ago. This bike was actually being thrown out by a neighbor. It was just left at the dumpster. And I figured it was time to get another 26-inch bike in my life, especially since this came with cantilever brakes, 2.1-inch meaty tires on there with clearance for more, as well as being a better geometry and sized retro mountain bike. It's made of 4130 chromoly steel. It is from Sears. It is a 50-degree latitude. Don't know what that means. Anyways, it came with a 21-speed Shimano derailleur system. The original shifters, which were flat bar shifters, the rear shifter was unfortunately broken. The plastic parts inside had worn out, and rather than trying to restore that, since I didn't know that I could, I instead brought in some top tube friction shifters. I really like friction shifters. Like, indexing is nice, but being able to trim your gears to get to the perfect point is really beneficial, especially on a bike like this, which I know I'm going to use, abuse, lend out, especially to less experienced riders who aren't as familiar with trimming gears, shifting into the right gears. This is something where they can easily figure out which way the lever needs to go in order to get to the gearing that they want. This bike is actually sized in a way that both I can ride it as well as my brother. That way he has a bike as well if we want to go on family rides. I call this bike the truck bike because in the future I am looking to put a front and a rear rack on it, and this will be a grocery getter. It also has the best gearing as far as climbing is concerned, having like a really small granny gear in the front in almost a 1-to-1 or exactly a 1-to-1 ratio, especially when towing a trailer. This bike has horizontal dropouts as well as actual bolts instead of a quick release, so I can attach a trailer to the back and get some groceries done. I've already done 1, maybe 2 voyages with the trailer on it, and it's done really well. If we work over the componentry on this, I have some vintage drop bar brakes with satellite levers. These were from the same European gentleman. Got a lot of great vintage parts from that guy. The reason I went for the satellite levers is if my brother is riding, it's a longer reach for him to get into the drops and grab onto the front lever, as well as the vintage levers. It's less comfortable to ride on the hoods, so you usually find yourself not doing so. It's also just a little bit easier when riding with the trailer to be more upright. Gives you better bike handling as well as just better visibility, so being able to brake just from the tops is quite beneficial. Good old Amazon bar tape, really beneficial, as well as some Amazon cabling and housing. This is a WHAM stem. Not too informed about how impactful WHAM might be, but I thought it was cool to reuse the same stem, as well as it's the brake bridge for the cantilevers. If we go over the fronts, they are 26-inch wheels, 2.1-inch wide tires, pretty meaty. Definitely the largest tire I've ever personally ridden. Not fat bike tire size, but meaty. I do have one wine cork in the bar ends, just because these bar ends that come from Amazon just continuously get lost. Like, they will just rattle themselves out and you will never find it again. These drop bars from the lovely Bike Sauce amazing. Pretty much the entire drivetrain is original. I think this might even be the same chain, just with a bit of cleaning done to it. These were some pedals that I took off of the race bike when I originally bought it as a parts bike, and so I just decided to reuse them here. They got a meaty feel to them, so especially when riding in winter boots, they're good and grippy. If we head down to the back, this here seat, this saddle is simply not it. I like the vintage look of it. It looks like it could be like knockoff Brooks with like saddle stitching, with checker stitching. But the appeal of the hammock style saddle is just not there for me. You really do need something that is able to support your weight, but also able to provide relief, especially in the grundle, the gooch, the taint, the coffee table, if you know that joke. Anyhow, I did like, however, that it has the little saddlebag attachments at the rear, so I do have 2 straps that originally came from a set of nylon toe cages. I did have a bottle of bungee cords in here previously. However, they did start to work themselves loose, so I'm going to find a new bungee cord bottle holding method. Yeah, quite reliable and quite cheap build. Very fun. Really enjoyed building this. Oh, there we go. Sick. Alright, so this here is actually my mom's bike. It is a folding supercycle, manufactured in England, so pretty old. In contention with the Norco for oldest bike, but I can't be sure. This bike was bought off Kijiji quite a long time ago, and it's stayed mostly stock since. The only thing that I know has been really changed is the rear tire. And as well as the addition of this milk crate and this bright green basket. This is my mom's weekend cruiser and grocery getter whenever I can convince her to go out for a ride. It has some vintage cantilever brakes, these sweet sweeped bars, real cruiser style. Really fun to ride, honestly, this bike. Unfortunately, it's like way too small for me, so like riding it does hurt my knees, but for a good period of the summer, I rode this to work, and I really enjoyed it. It has a 3-speed internal hub in the rear. However, that doesn't really work anymore these days, and yeah, I don't know how to fix that. I could be a bike mechanic, but I'm definitely not a bike mechanic, and that's a little advanced for me. Anyways, this bike is like almost completely stock. Underneath the seat cushion is the original seat. The only new things added to it are the aforementioned baskets, this bell, this water bottle holder, and yeah, completely original. Real marvel of engineering, design. Yeah, so good. Also the only bike with fenders. I should really add some more fenders to my other bikes. Yeah, what else is there to say? 20-inch wheels. Bit of rust, bit of patina. But yeah, this is the most reliable bike. Never let us down. Ever. Ever. Alrighty. So this here is my race bike. It is a CCM aluminum bike. Yeah, I don't know too much about this actual frame itself. It is 6061 aluminum. It is their road/race model. Not too sure how old it is. One interesting thing about this bike is it is a quill stem bike. However, it came with a adapter to run a 30.6 handlebar. Stem has a bit of a rise to it, which I don't mind because, let's be honest, I'm not going to be able to get down that low. On it are some oval 310s, I think is what they're called. Honestly, can't tell. The logo's under the bar wrap. I have forgotten. If we look at some of the interesting features, currently I have some aero bars on here. Why is that? Well, I am looking to train for a time trial. Yeah, and that's all I'm going to tell you about it. Sorry. I know you're looking for more info, but just got to make you wait. It has some aero bars on it. These are some like really nicely cushioned and padded ones. I also have a camera mount out here because, you know, if I do something like this, I kind of got to film it. Don't know why, but I just do. Anyways, headed back down to the bars, we have our brakes and shifters. Up here is an 11-speed L2 gravel group set. I bought this off of Kijiji for about 60 bucks from a gentleman who no longer wanted it. This thing has worked great. 11 speeds, it can run up to a 48 tooth in the rear, I believe. And as far as being a bike brand from China that received a lot of skepticism in the beginning, this has been extremely reliable. If we head on down and back, we are going to run into these Shimano cranks, which attached to them are some of the CCM Canadian Tire pedals. On these pedals, I have some MKS toe cages with the original MKS leather straps as well. Brought to you by, guess who? Bike Sauce. Bike Sauce, amazing, love them. The chainring is a 52 tooth chainring from a brand called Decas. That doesn't sound right. Decas? Let's call them Decas. A brand called Decas on Amazon. Heading down is a microshift cassette. It is 11-speed Shimano style cassette. I believe it's an 11 to 46 speed cassette. The only issue being that the SRAM chain that I bought for 11 speed does not have the room to actually use the entire range of the cassette. So I will have to Frankenstein a 1.5 length chain or something like that in the future in order to make full range of the cassette, because currently I can use 9 of the 11 speeds. Going any further than that, it just starts to click into 10th, but will not get there fully. And I have no desire to fully wear out that cassette, being how new it is. Looking then at the wheels, these are some Mavic Axioms that I picked up off of Kijiji when I was building this bike. Pretty much everything aside from a few items is from Kijiji and is secondhand, which, you know, I really love that. Yeah, these are some really great road wheels. Honestly, probably too good to be on this bike, but so be it. Moving on to the saddle. This saddle, I don't know too much about it. The only branding it has on it is the words KHS and Velo. Not too sure if it's an actual KHS saddle, a knockoff. Anyways, when I first got it, it had quite a lot of damage to it. As you can see, it's missing a fair deal of the nose. It's ripped on this side of the sit bone support as well as the other side. It has seen a few things for sure, but it is pretty comfy, and I'll be honest, for a seat that doesn't have a cutout relief channel, this is really good. It works extremely well, and I've been quite happy with it. Oh, and yes, I do have a kickstand on my race bike. If I was racing it, would I take it off? Maybe, but I'll be honest, as a commute bike, I really appreciate the kickstand being there because I can stop anywhere. Get off my bike, put the kickstand down, step away, mess with cameras on the rear of the bike, on the front, cameras off the bike, etc. Makes it real easy instead of having to find something to lean the bike against and worry about dropping it. Anyways, I think that's about everything on this bike to talk about. So let's move on to the next. All right, wow. Look just how complete this next bike is. So this bike here is a super lightweight aero race bike. The fastest bike you've ever seen. Anyways, this is a vintage Miele road bike. It's more of a cruiser. It has that dropped top tube. I picked up this bike for a friend. She was looking to get a bike that was her size and something that was a little bit more capable than the 24-inch kids bike that she'd previously been riding. I found this at the reuse depot on the 3rd floor of OCAD. I quickly realized why it was in the reuse depot. This bike here has an egregiously seized seat post. This thing has not come out. I have had this bike frame in my possession since late November of last year, and yeah, I haven't quite gone to it. But this year that'll change. This bike will be ready come spring. The frame is set up for 27-inch wheels. Unfortunately, because it is made for a shorter person, it's roughly a 50 to 48 centimeter bike frame. The clearance on here doesn't allow me to convert from 27 to 700. This brake bridge, very close to the tire, and that is using 1/8 inch 27 tires. So yeah, quite close. Luckily though, it has bossing for a bottle cage, which my vintage bike doesn't. Oh, yeah, this bike definitely is patinaed, and she has expressed her desire to repaint it. And yeah, I'm really excited to see what she does with it, and I'm really excited to get it running for her once I get this seat post out, once I get it out. But all of the other parts are in possession, and I'm gonna really enjoy getting to ride with her once this is finished. So yeah, I'll be looking forward to that. Let me just pretend to wheel it out here. This one's difficult. Oh boy. There we go. Are we in fully? I hope so. So, yeah, as you can see, this one is quite different from all of the rest. This is my gas bike. It started off life as a Schwinn Hydra, which is like a hybrid style commuter bike. This bike was actually discarded at the building that I used to live at. Had simply tossed it out in our recycling room, and we decided to take it, fix it up a little. Around 2 years ago, I decided to make an investment into a gas bike engine, which for those of you who don't know is a 2-stroke engine similar to that of a dirt bike, which adapts to a bicycle in order to motorize it. Quite similar to some of the motorized like electronic bike kits. You simply buy it online. It has some adapter rails, and you fit it to work with your bike. The honest truth about this is it got a few good rides, but it was not the practical solution that I was looking for. One of the issues with these bikes is they can only run one gear. Just like fixed gear bikes, the ratio between the drive sprocket and the rear wheel sprocket plays a lot into how the bike will perform. You can have a very fast bike, but that very fast bike is not going to have a lot of torque. You can have a very torquey bike, but that very torquey bike is not going to have a lot of top speed. So you run into a little balancing game, and I simply did not want to invest the money and time into that, because the second problem, these bikes are very loud. If you've ever heard a 2-stroke dirt bike, it's already extremely loud, even with a large amount of baffling, and a large amount of baffling this does not have. It's a very short exhaust pipe. It's quite loud. It sounds like a lawnmower from hell with a horde of bees. And yeah, it's not the nicest thing to run on the streets. You definitely get a lot of stares. One, because you're on what looks like a rolling death trap and is a rolling death trap. And two, it's just extremely loud, not very people friendly. Currently, the motor is not running. I haven't gotten around the time to fix it. It will need to be disassembled and cleaned, simply because it does have fuel in it, and if you know anything about carbureted engines and modern gas, it's that modern gas will break down into corn syrup and basically clog this entire thing. So that is a future problem that I simply don't have the time to dedicate towards now. Oh, another thing is, because of the additional weight and vibrations on this bike, the rear tire continuously had an issue of puncturing. There's simply too much weight on the rear, and it would continuously blow tubes to the point where I invested in a solid rubber rear tire. My God, was that the worst experience of tire installation I've ever lived through, because this thing is just pain. It is horrible. I hope you never have to deal with installing a solid tire, because yeah. Anyhow, I invested in a solid rubber rear tire to negate that problem. But honestly, I think this project itself is just going to have to find another time to exist. I will be removing the gas engine off of this bike, and this bike will probably end up getting donated to a friend who's in need of a, decent riding bike. By no means is this thing a racing machine. This is definitely a to B commuter. Yeah, I hope it can return to that use, because the bare bones of it, it is a good bike. And you know what? As much as it pains me to part with the investment of that rear tire, I do not have it in me to take it off. So I think whoever I end up giving this to will really like that they don't have to worry about reinstalling their rear tire. Oh, and this does have shocks in the front. However, they're not great. They could use some service. I don't know how to do that either. It's 3x8, so you got 24 potential pairings of gears. Yeah, it has some interesting parts on it, like this front bar extender, which allows you to attach more things to it if you need that, like maybe 7 lights. It has a speedometer on it. It does have a horn on it. I'm not going to squeeze it because that would be annoying. It does, however, have a bent front brake lever. There was a period where I was very inspired by Seth's Bike Hacks, now known as Burn Peak, to try mountain biking. And this was not the bike to do it on. This is not a mountain bike, by no means. And I went downhill very fast and then stopped very abruptly. I crashed, went over the bars. The left brake lever went into my thigh, not penetrating, not like stabbing into my thigh, but it bent the lever. So that tells you how hard I hit it. And I hit it quite hard. I had a very big bruise for quite a while. It was very bad because I also had to walk my way back, and that was just a whole journey, which I'll save for another time. We'll do a story time or something like that. That is this bike. So yeah, back in storage it goes, and later on it will be stripped of its amazing 2-stroke engine and restored to the commuter that it once was, so that others may enjoy it. Oh god. Oh. It's also extremely heavy with the engine. There we are. So this here is my Supercycle SC 1800. You've probably seen quite a few of these around if you live in Toronto. This is a bike that is still manufactured and sold at Canadian Tire. There's a dropped top tube as well as a standard top tube version. This is a 26-inch mountain bike. It's got V-brakes on it. It's got a 3x6, I think. All around decent bike. Real solid, pretty reliable. I used to get around quite a bit on this thing. Yeah, I'd credit a lot of my riding to this bike. 2 years ago I started using this to commute to work, because I could get to work in half the time that it took to commute on public transit. And yeah, this really got me going with that, and really set in motion just a period of independence, maybe. I'm not quite sure what I call that, but yeah, this bike really helped with that. I don't think I would be doing Bikes of OCAD if it weren't for this thing. Yeah, nothing really crazy about this bike. It's survived a few incidents. Yeah, it's gotten its tire slashed accidentally. He knows who he is. Did crash it once, messed up the rear shifter. Have a aftermarket one. It is a Shimano, but it's not the right type of Shimano because I didn't know how to do that back then. And it does all right. It does all right. I think it's really a 15 speed now because you can't use the biggest gear, but that's fine. Yeah, my brother currently rides this bike, but as I said before, the truck bike is now the new brother bike. Like brother bear, brother bike. Yeah, as I said, the truck bike is now the bike that he will get to use, and this bike will be given to someone in need of a bike. Also, the wheelbase, quite short, so it's like really agile. Yeah, all around good bike. Just unfortunately not the right type of bike for me. So this bike will find a new home where it can be appreciated. So anyways, that is the fleet of bikes in my possession, and yeah, let me know if you think that seven bikes is too many for one person. Yeah, let me know which one you're interested to learn more about. I'd love to do some story times, talk about some things, especially when I was just starting riding. I think there's maybe not enough stories about that. Yeah, I'm excited. There's a lot of new plans for some of these bikes, a lot of new events planned as well for the coming new year. Is there anything else to say? I'm not too sure, but thank you for coming along. I hope you've enjoyed so far, and stick around for more Bikes of OCADU. All right, take care.